You're now live.
Thank you. I have 4:45. I'm going to wait one more minute to see if some of our committee members might just be joining us. We will start the meeting at 4:46. Hi, Catherine.
Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Welcome. Good.
Michelle, you're going to have one of our interns named Carly who's going to ask to join. So just a heads up that she'll be doing that.
Welcome, Margaret. And Jim Zons. Very good.
Welcome, Arlene. Thank you.
Matt, good to see you. It's 4:46. I will call a CR&T meeting, June 14th at 4:45 p.m. to order. But before we get into business, I have an announcement that I need to make. That's that anyone who is not yet vaccinated will be requested to wear a face mask for your own protection. So, anybody here is wearing a face mask, we're all vaccinated. Thank you. Okay, call a roll of office here at this particular time. I see that we have our county board chair here, David Bartlett. We have our committee members here, Ann Vogel, and online we have Jim Zons. I have got a call early this morning from Jim, and glad you're able to join us a little while, Jim. I'll try to get you on if you have to leave at 6:30, or we'll try to get to that tourism thing and get you going. Larry Bjork sent me a letter just a few minutes ago saying he was having some farm machinery problems. Wasn't sure when he would get on. So we do have a quorum, however, so we will proceed. When you read the minutes from our last meeting, Michelle pointed out to me that before you approved them, at the very end, it said the next meeting was July 14th. That should have been June 14th today. So with that amended and correction, I would ask for approval of the minutes from our May 10th meeting. Moved by Vogel. Or a second by anyone?
I'll second.
Bartlett seconds. Moved to second. Any discussion? If not, all approved say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The minutes are approved. Do we have any public comments or anything that Krista you've heard of, or Michelle? No
We
public
received
comments.
no public comments.
I do have one announcement that I feel I need to make at this time, because ordinarily Bob Colson appears at our meeting, and I talked to him last week and I said, Bob, knowing of your busy schedule, you do not need to be here. And Bob submitted his resignation on Friday of this week, and he said it was okay for me to share that information with you. His last day of employment with Dunn County as our planning and zoning administrator will be 2 weeks from last Friday, the 25th of June. So Bob, we wish Bob well and thank him for all of his help here with the CR&T committee and with broadband. He was very helpful with all that. So I wanted to make that announcement now under public comments. Okay, we'll get into action here right now. And so I'm going to call online right now Extension Educator Margaret Murphy, and just read your nice report there of all the things you're doing with the gardeners, and wow. So Margaret Murphy, who represents us as you all know, the horticulturalist in our area. And so Margaret, we'd like to hear from you at this point.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen here and show a few slides.
Good.
And okay. Well, thank you. It's so nice to be here this evening, and hopefully in the future I'll be there in person as I'm starting to transition back into the office. It's very exciting. Since I haven't seen you, or I know I've been doing monthly updates, but I haven't done a face-to-face or virtual face-to-face with you since January, I want to catch you up on a few things the Master Gardener program's been doing. I know I've mentioned in my monthly updates our onboarding class. The onboarding class is a new class that the Master Gardener program created and piloted just this past winter. It was piloted from January through March of this year. And the onboarding class is now a required class for anyone who is interested in becoming a certified Master Gardener. So because of COVID last year, shutting so much stuff down, we suspended any Master Gardener volunteer training and put a hold on recruitment. Except Area 6, along with Area 5, was able to offer an 8-week virtual class, a horticulture class for folks. We had, I'm trying to remember now, probably 25 to 30 people in that class. We had 11 participants from Area 6 who went into that class and then decided to continue on and got into the pilot of the onboarding class and finished up and became certified Master Gardeners as of April. So our area, Eau Claire, Dunn, and Chippewa were part of only 9 counties that had newly certified MGVs for 2021. So we're very excited to welcome those 11 new folks to the program. And we had people from all 3 counties, new volunteers for all 3 counties. Now, this year, we're going to be piloting another course. This is called Foundations in Horticulture, or FIH for short. This is a course that both the Horticulture and Master Gardener programs are putting together, or working on together. It's an online Canvas course. And this is basically an elevation of the traditional training that we've always offered to individuals who wanted to become Master Gardener volunteers. And so the big difference is we're taking that same content, which is basically just going through the fundamentals or the basics of Wisconsin horticulture. We do that through a lens of integrated pest management. And what's different is that now this class or this course is going to be open to everyone. So not just to folks who are interested in being Master Gardener volunteers. So anyone who's interested in learning more about Midwest gardening, as well as individuals who want to become Master Gardener volunteers, are welcome to take this course. It's going to start the week of the September 12th, and we expect it to end by December 11th. It's going to be all virtual in 2021. And besides the main course content, which will be video presentations along with readings, we will also have virtual labs and virtual question and answer sessions with our horticulture specialists. And so we're very excited about that. Now, coming in 2022, we hope to be able to transition some of those labs into in-person labs, because it is very important, and a lot of county educators, myself included, prefer to have that hands-on interaction with folks, especially those who are interested in becoming Master Gardener volunteers. So we're looking at putting that more in-person touch in the 2022 year. So right now I have had about 11 people contact me who are interested in becoming Master Gardener volunteers. And this is before we've even started recruiting again. So I'm very excited about that interest. And then come July, when this class is open for registration, we'll start recruiting folks to take it and hopefully to continue on to become volunteers with Extension. Other things that we're doing with the Master Gardener program, and I know I've mentioned this in the past as well, is our mentorship program. This is a new program we started in 2021 for the main purpose of getting those new Master Gardener volunteers into our local programs, because they're being trained virtually. And still a lot of the groups, Master Gardener groups, are not meeting in person yet. We're starting that transition now. So it's very important that we engage our new volunteers as quickly as we can to keep them interested and active. So now all of the new volunteers for 2021 have been paired with a mentor. Some Master Gardener volunteers have done a bang-up job and a great job of taking on a couple of mentees. And we do have two Dunn County Master Gardener volunteers who are mentoring 3 new Master Gardener volunteers. So I'm very excited about that. And these are some of the programs that Dunn County Master Gardeners are doing right now that the new volunteers can get engaged with. And that's work at the Historical Society and with the Humane Society, also the Veterans Memorial Garden, which they've been working on for many, many years. That's a picture of what it is right now. The poppies all just bloomed just in time for the Flag Day celebration. So it's a beautiful looking garden right now. We also have that Dunn County Jail Garden, which is a donation garden. And now last year they did continue with the donation garden. They only were able to garden half of it and they weren't able to work with inmates. But this year it's back into being in full swing. So they're using the entire garden and they're able to work with inmates to continue to grow food for donation. And they donate tons of fresh produce every year. It's quite an amazing project. And then we also have a garden at Cinerama Park and at several of our local churches, which volunteers are very active with. Another thing we did, and I mentioned that we were going to do this when I spoke to you in January, but since then, the Master Gardeners had completed their virtual spring seminar. Now, the Dunn County Master Gardeners, I think last year, before COVID shut everything down, they were able to have in 2020 an in-person garden seminar. And actually it was their 10th anniversary of doing that garden seminar. Eau Claire County also has an annual garden seminar, as does Chippewa. But since we weren't sure whether we could meet in person in 2021, they started working last summer on doing a virtual spring seminar. So all 3 counties came together to put together this one seminar. And we actually picked up 3 more counties along the way in our area. So 6 counties in total were working on this seminar. And it was a 4-week seminar. We had a presentation each week. We had about 350 registrants for this virtual program. Usually at each talk, we had maybe half of those folks actually come in and watch, although the talks were recorded. So registrants were able to view the recording as well. So one of the things the Dunn County Master Gardeners did is they set up the first talk, which was on soil prep for vegetable gardening. And so we did the registration through Qualtrics. We also did an evaluation through Qualtrics. And what's sweet about Qualtrics is it allows me to run a report so we can get a little bit of information on not only how people are learning, what they plan to implement from watching these programs, but also who's watching our programs. These are all very important things we want to keep track of. So for example, with this particular soil prep program, if you look at the graph, we saw the red is what people gauged their understanding of soil health prior to the program, and the scale goes from 1 through 5, with 1 being the lowest understanding, with 5 being the highest. So we had a number of people who felt pretty comfortable with soil health information prior to the program in the 3s and 4s. But you'll notice that after the program, a lot of those switched to 4s and 5s. So that's what we like to see. We like to see more purple down around the 4 and 5. That tells us that according to our participants, they have a much stronger understanding of the topic that we were talking about. And that was pretty much the trend we had for all 4 of our talks that were offered. Another thing we got to keep track of is also, again, who is watching. And with some of the statistics we looked at, we had we're seeing the majority of people who tuned into these to this spring seminar were Wisconsin Master Gardener volunteers. About 73% of the people who watched this soil prep presentation were Wisconsin Master Gardener volunteers. 85% of them consider themselves or label themselves as white, 82% female, and of course all adults. So that gives us an idea of who we're reaching, who our audience is. And both the Horticulture and Master Gardener program are really working hard to try to diversify our audience and bring in more folks who haven't traditionally been part of the Master Gardener program. So this gives us an idea of who we're reaching and who we really need to be reaching. Another thing we can look at with these evaluations is how, one of the questions we ask is, after viewing these presentations, what do you plan to implement? What do you plan to change about your gardening technique? And in the case of the soil health, for an example, people were going to look more into using compost, which is a great way to incorporate organic matter into your soil, which keeps your soil healthy, keeps those little soil microbes healthy and happy. And so they were also looking into soil testing. That's something I preach a lot about as an extension educator is, you know, if you haven't had a soil test done in a while, it's worth getting a soil test done from a certified lab so that you know if you have to add any amendments, because if you don't, then don't. And if you do, then you'll know exactly what you have to add so you don't end up putting in more than is necessary or unnecessary nutrients. So that's kind of exciting as I work more with Qualtrics. We did the same with a horticulture program that we hosted. Dunn County, along with Eau Claire and Chippewa, hosted a program by Dr. Brian Huddleston, who's the director of the Plant Diseases and Diagnostic Clinic. He did a talk on vegetable diseases. We saw kind of the same trend, people saying that they had a much better understanding of vegetable diseases after they listened to Dr. Huddleston. We also saw kind of the same demographics, predominantly master gardeners watching, predominantly white, predominantly female, which is not really a surprise at this point. And things that they hope to change, and this is one thing I love about Dr. Huddleston, is that he's really into teaching people about good cultural practices, because if you can keep your soil and your plants healthy, it reduces the need to input any type of fertilizer or pesticides into your garden. So what people were saying they were going to do after listening to Dr. Huddleston was that they were going to just practice better observation, which is another thing I tend to preach, is that if you want to tend your garden well, you got to be out in your garden and you got to pay attention to what's happening. Because if you're seeing something happening that's not supposed to be happening, the earlier you can catch it, the better it's going to be to try to prevent any real loss of your crop. Crop rotation was another thing people were interested in. Better cleanup, that's also very important to keeping disease issues down, keeping your garden clean, and then also better watering methods. So we were getting some very good responses with evaluations from that program as well. So again, very excited about being able to get some information and again, using that through Qualtrics. Now, some of the presentations I've done this spring, I have not used Qualtrics. We didn't do that type of registration because they were all free. So was Dr. Huddleston's talk was free as well. So, but this is something I'm thinking about in the future, that maybe even though the program's free and open to everyone, maybe it's still worth doing a registration and an evaluation through Qualtrics so that we can learn a little bit more about our audience. But some of the presentations I've done have been on expanding food gardening. I've been asked to talk about vegetable container gardening. Interestingly, the National Gardening Association, about every 5 years, they put out a report on gardening trends. And they put out a report in 2019, and that showed that about 20% of households in the United States are now doing some type of container gardening, about 24 million people. And they're spending well over $1 billion on doing it. So it's become very popular. And vegetable container gardening is certainly part of that. It's a very convenient way for a lot of people to start growing some of their own food by being able to do that in a container. So I had a couple of talks with the Strong Body classes on that. The Lunch and Learn program at Chippewa County Courthouse wanted to talk on that. I also did a talk on just vegetable gardening 101 for people who are still kind of doing the in-ground gardening techniques, some of the basics for, basically it was geared toward people who were new to vegetable gardening. Then I also did a talk on food safety in the donation garden, because more and more people obviously are still thankfully very interested in donating excess food that they grow in their gardens. Feeding America, that network of food banks, they just recently reported they are serving 55% more people than they were serving prior to the pandemic. So there's clearly still a large need for providing food to these food recipient organizations. And one of the higher requested food items is fresh produce. And so I'm glad to see Master Gardeners are interested in getting more involved in donating food. So we had a talk about food safety when you're doing gardens for donation. And some of the gardens we're working on right now, of course, I mentioned the Dunn County Jail Garden. They do a fantastic job. And also we have a dedicated plot at our Chippewa Falls Community Garden. The United Healthcare Organization has donated that garden space for us to use just for donation. And then also in our own courtyard at the office here, right outside the Office of Extension, we have that wonderful pizza, that courtyard garden. One of them is a pizza garden, which again, any produce we're able to glean out of that garden will go to Stepping Stone or some other organization as well. I'm also active in youth gardens. Primarily, I'm working with the Boys and Girls Club. Now in Eau Claire, the Master Gardeners actually have been running a very successful garden with the Boys and Girls Club. They also partner with FoodWise on that. And we're trying to emulate that program because it is such a great program. So we're trying it in Chippewa Falls. We were going to do that last year. Of course, that was suspended, but this year we're giving it another go. And so we do have the Boys and Girls Club in Chippewa Falls does have a designated garden plot along with a raised bed. And we're going to start programming with kids this week. And we're also partnering with FoodWise again. Nancy Fassner is going to be working with me on that project. And also, I know she also does some work in Dunn County. And I was just talking with Sandy Tarter about this, that hopefully next year for 2022, we will set something up for Dunn County if the Boys and Girls Club there is interested in doing something similar. So very excited about that program, where kids learn good gardening practices. They're going to learn about vegetable gardening. They're going to learn about pollinators and other insects in the garden. When I had a bunch of kids from the Boys and Girls Club a couple of weeks ago come out and help me plant these 2 plots they have, it was amazing how many times they screamed well, the little girls did, I have to say, whenever they saw a spider. And so I think I'm going to do a unit on insects in the garden and how it's good to leave most of them just alone to do their thing. So they're going to learn quite a bit. And from FoodWise, of course, they're going to learn about food nutrition and things like that. And lastly, I just wanted to mention diagnostics. Been very busy with that as well. I think I've had over 100 inquiries so far. You know, I really envy the horticulturalist who can really focus on one topic. You have horticulturalists who just focus on things like vegetables or focus on fruit or focus on turf. But when you're a consumer horticulturalist like I am, or like all your county educators who work in the hort area are, we really have to be a jack of all trades. And these are just some of the topics that have come in over the last couple of months on trees and lawns and plant IDs, fruits, flowers, soil, ground covers, moss, shrubs, crop rotation, hydroponics, insects, container gardening, raised bed gardening, pesticides. We really get questions from all aspects of horticulture. So it really does keep us on our toes. One thing that was new to me, and this came from Lissa from Eau Claire, or egg educator in Eau Claire, she sent me a picture that's the one on the top. To me, it looks like a little toad, though some people think it looks like a little turtle, and that's actually how it got its name. It's called a tortoise beetle. So that's actually an insect. It's called the tortoise beetle. They like to blow a little bubble around themselves to protect themselves. That little bubble is made out of their excrement. So yay, if you want to pull it off. They don't usually happen in a large enough number in the garden to be a real issue. They do like your nightshades. So if you're going to find them, you're going to find them probably on potatoes and tomatoes. But if they are there, they will nibble your leaves. So you can always just hand remove them. But I have not seen one before. So I thought that was a very nice picture. She
Margaret, can I ask you a question about that? We used to call that the spittlebug. Is that the same bug?
No, there is a spittlebug. Spittlebugs, I've only found spittlebugs in trees. And I actually had the unfortunate pleasure, I guess, of diagnosing a spittlebug in a tree when I was in Iowa. And I knew it was a spittlebug because I stood under the tree and got nailed with a lot of its spittle. So yes, there is a spittlebug, but this is a little different. This is a tortoise beetle. So yeah. And then also like tree stuff, I think what we're seeing a lot of, just I thought it was an interesting picture, was the maple galls. I get a lot of questions about people who send me pictures of their maple leaves, also oak leaves, because these are trees that often get a lot of galls on them. And those are the little bumps on the leaves, and they can take different forms, different shapes, depending on the insect. So inside each one of those galls is a little insect, either a little mite or a little wasp. And they irritate the leaf. So the leaf puts out some chemicals that forms that little tissue around the insect, which we call a gall, and it protects the insect. So you really can't do anything about it because an insecticide won't go in there, but you don't really need to spray that because really it's just a cosmetic thing. It isn't going to harm your tree at all. So, but people usually think it's a horrible disease that their tree is contracted. So if you see those, it's just a harmless little gall. Some years you see more of them than others. But those are some of the things I'm doing right now. And again, if you have any questions, I'd be very happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Margaret. And your written report was very good too. I would make one comment. Today you mentioned the Veterans Memorial Garden. That would be where we had our Flag Day today, right?
Right, yeah.
The flowers are beautiful, and people were really looking at it. And when you leave here today, take a look at the pizza garden too, right? Outside here, if you haven't done that already. Any questions of any of the committee or people online? Margaret. Well, read her report again. Dave, Chairman Bartlett.
About how many master gardeners do you have that are involved from Dunn County?
Dunn County has, I think right now, active master gardeners, I think we're around 14 or 15. So our numbers are pretty low. So that's one thing we're going to start doing now that things are opening up a little bit due to from the pandemic, is that we're going to start recruiting. And we'll be recruiting at Farm Technology Days and any other events that we have going on. Yeah.
Any other questions? I would throw in one thing more. Of all the things you're doing in the pollinators, I noticed on one of those pictures at the bottom there was a monarch butterfly. And I think that is getting a lot of attention of people nowadays in trying to get pollinators. And it doesn't have to be the milky milkweed. I think there's many species of milkweed that we can plant, right? That will still be a good pollinator for monarchs and other butterflies. I think that's a good thing to add to these gardeners, isn't it? Is it not? Value
Yeah.
of pollinator.
Milkweeds are essential for the monarch. That is their host plant, right? And then there's other types of host plants for other types, like the swallowtail, the black swallowtail. If you have parsley, they will use that as a host plant. So when you're doing anything for pollinators, you want to diversify both using host plants and nectar plants to support the population. Yeah, we have a lot of good information on that if anyone's interested in learning what types of plants would be good. And then also one of our Dunn County Master Gardeners, Martha Wallen, she actually is very experienced, very knowledgeable in monarchs. And she started she started a patch at the Menominee Community Garden, which is now designated as a monarch way. I think it's a way station or watch station. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Anybody online, any questions? I could ask a lot of them, but I don't want to. I want to keep moving. thank you again, Margaret, and good work, and your report that we've read, very impressive. So appreciate your report, Margaret.
Well, thank you.
We'll move on then to hear from our area extension director, Catherine Emmanuel. And you know, Catherine, we read about you in the paper all the time too. Eau Claire, you're a busy person, city council over there in Eau Claire as well. So I know we read a lot about you. Good job. Catherine, if besides maybe Tom Quinn isn't on, so I don't know if you want to kind of report maybe how that interview has gone as well. Maybe you do plan to do that. And maybe do we need to cover a little bit on the budget if there's things in there you need to point out to us to be alerted or watch. Catherine Emmanuel, our area director.
Thank you so much. So what I want to talk to you all about today is the kind of the return to the office space. We are not calling it return to work because Extension has been continuing to work remotely and now a bit more in person. And then we'll talk a little bit about the community development educator search and screen process and where we're at there. I'm happy to talk a little bit about the budget. And Michelle, if you want to chime in at all, you're welcome to. And then last, we'll wrap it up by talking about one of our internship program that we're hosting. If you remember, we were successful in receiving 3 fully funded grant positions to serve as interns. And so one of them is online, and that's Ms. Carly Nelson. And Carly, when I call on you, you can turn your camera on and speak just to introduce yourself real briefly. So the first is all of the Extension employees are expected to be back in the office by July 6th. And I know I put this in our monthly highlights, but I also want to reiterate what in the office means for Extension. We are, as state employees, we have to follow our state employer guidelines and the expectations of teaching out in the community. And so, as you know, Extension mostly does not teach from the main government center. We teach out in the community, and many groups are meeting on weekends or the evenings. So it's very likely if you came to the Extension office, one of our employees may not be in right at 8 o'clock in the morning, or maybe not even till 10 o'clock because they have a meeting that goes until 9 p.m. that night. Or maybe they had already worked for 4 12-hour days. They may take a little bit of downtime on a Friday. So, and we definitely support that because we want to make sure our employees are not only taking care of their work responsibilities, but then balancing it out on the other side as well as best they can. But you will see us in the office a bit more often than in times past. And we'd love it if you stop by and say hello. Anytime, you're always welcomed. All right, next is the community development educator position. As you know, we got the green light to hire that. We've been in the review applicants phase, and then we went ahead and did a preliminary interview with applicants and then invited 3 to be finalists. Out of the 3, one person withdrew, I think the day before the final interview, citing some personal medical reasons, and so she withdrew herself from the search. So we had 2 finalists, and I invited Tom Quinn to participate in the interview process. In the past, I think we've had Supervisor Anderson for 1 or 2, and thought it would be good to kind of spread out that opportunity. And given Supervisor Quinn's content expertise, both on the county side and then with food systems, I thought he would be a really great fit. So he was able to join us for the last 2 interviews. And so now we are going to be working on background checks. And as soon as I am done with those, then I will be free to offer the position to the top person out of that. So I hope to have news for you before the next committee meeting. Typically, when we hire somebody, I will send an email to basically everybody and your brother and sister that just shares out just the update. So I'll send it to all of our committee members as well, just because it's exciting. And I want you to know first before hearing it, somewhere else. Supervisor Zahn says he needs to leave the meeting no later than 5:35. So I will make this pretty quick here as we wrap up. Budget, I'd say that you will not see any surprises. And Michelle, feel free to add anything you wish. We follow the directions from the county of really to go through each line and evaluate, is this still necessary? Do we need to make adjustments, et cetera? Extension is increasing their contractual fees that covers the educator. I think it's going up about, Michelle, please correct me if I'm wrong, 3%. However, they're going to reduce another expense. So I think the net increase is something like 1.87% or something for this year. You can correct me, Michelle.
9.4.
1.94. Oh, we were so close. That increase is there. But other than that, no major surprises. Did some small adjustments. One thing you'll see is Michelle will have a Zoom license now where she didn't have a county issued Zoom license because she's taking on the clerk responsibilities. And so they were able to transfer Julie's Zoom, I guess, funding, so to speak. It's not really transferred yet, but it'll kind of work out as a wash for the county because Michelle is taking that license. So should be pretty straightforward, and not expecting any surprises, at least from us. And last and not least, last week we started our, actually, let me pause. The Supervisor Anderson, I know that you're interested in having supervisors on share. I don't know how long that will take, but I'm happy to pause here. And then after you do that business, we can maybe wrap it up with the interns. And if you think I can just keep talking, that's fine, but I want to defer to you.
Well, that would be great. That would be great, Catherine. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, Carly, just hang tight.
Oh, okay. We'll call you back later. Thank you. And so we are going to move ahead then and start talking about issues. First, I'm going to, and as you all saw, that Supervisor Zons has to leave at 5:35. That gives us about 15 minutes. I was going to call on Jim first, and I don't know whether Dan Dunbar here also is on the agenda right now to talk about information technology. And we're very happy that we have Kimberly McKay here from the chamber. And so let's open this up right now. Jim Zons, you're on. So I'm going to call on you first, Jim. Where would you like to start with this?
Well, I guess mostly I'm interested in where Paul Miller and Dan Dunbar are, as far as they were going to submit the proposal for doing the county website out to get some additional bids to see what some of the other competitive things were. And that's kind of where we had left it when we had our last meeting. So I don't know, I'm assuming that process got started. I don't know if they got some results and what they had to hear, but I suppose we can hear from them.
Well, Jim, yes, I wanted to call on you first because when you have to leave, we're going to continue this conversation here with Dan and Kimberly and others in the committee. So jump in anytime you want. Right now, then, maybe we did get this nice report, and I was just complimenting Dan Dunbar. Everybody knows him, our chief information officer, who did a fantastic job, I thought, in that report. And so, Jim, is it all right if we turn it over to Dan now?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay, Dan, tell us if you had a chance to read that report. I hope all of you did. And Dan, I know you've met with Jim and you've met with Kimberly. You're on, Dan.
Yeah, so covered a lot of it in the report, but I think one of the big things as we looked at the proposal that was brought up at the last committee meeting, we had some concerns really about the ongoing costs related to that. And so we were looking at different options that we could implement in order to decrease some of the actual costs, as well as, can we use some county staff in order to perform some of those roles, and how can we optimize that? So we did go out and we got bids from 2 competitors for really what was exactly what had been proposed at the last meeting. And so that was really option number one that I had shared there. And the proposal that had come up in the meeting, when we exclude the ongoing cost, that content maintenance cost, it was $300 a month. When we exclude that cost, the proposal that was brought up there was the cheapest proposal in that area. But one of the things that we had run into when we did this is we met with the web developer that did the Explore Menominee page. I tend to call it the chamber page. If I say that, it's the Explore Menominee page. And we were looking to see if we could find some synergies in that they have a page that does a lot of what we're looking for. It has its specific focus around Menominee and I think specifically the hotels in the area. But there's content in there that we felt would be valuable and something that we didn't want to recreate if it already existed. So the web developer that did their page, in addition to giving us a proposal for just a standalone page, gave us a proposal that would be kind of borrowing and sharing pieces of that Explore Menominee page. And I have a little slide which I felt represented it. Like, oh, Krista, can I share my screen?
Yes, you're able to.
All right, just 1 second. So this is a slide that kind of shows how those two sites would go together. So that green area there is the existing Explore Menominee page. And down at the bottom, that red area would be what would be the Dunn County page. So they are completely two different sites. They would have a different address and they would work independently of each other, with the exception of that middle area, which is shared. And inside of that area, if it's not readable, are events, businesses, attractions, and specific articles, right? So a lot of those are those tourist-based areas that we know that both areas are interested in being able to share and get out there. One of the values that we have of that is if the Chamber Explore Menominee gets an event that shows up in there, it can easily be added to the Dunn County webpage without us doing any work. Right. And so that's really the value that we were looking at in option 2. It has an additional upfront cost because the development of creating that is higher, but those ongoing costs are a little bit lower, and we think it'll provide some good value. And then our final one is the our final option that I had in that report is it's the low budget option. It is a simple web page that would have links off to different sites for different attractions and events that are out there that we would look at maybe quarterly, maybe every half year, maybe every year, making sure that that was refreshed to show that content, so it could kind of work as a distribution page to all of those other pages. But it's a very, very low cost, and it's not going to be as flashy and dynamic as a full site would be. So that was kind of the 3 proposals that we put out there, and I asked the committee to say, tell us which path you would prefer that we would go down. I did really like that proposal in working with the Explore Menominee group, and Kimberly and I had met about that, and I know she met with the rest of the chamber about that option as well.
Dan, thank you, Dan. Before we go to Dan questions, let's see if Kimberly wants to add to that, and then we'll jump in here with questions. Kimberly?
Yeah, so with the option 2, so that would be the conjoining of the shared data. So we already have that events calendar built out, the plugin for the business directories, the attractions. So kind of all that stuff was already built out. So we kind of just sharing that middle medium that you guys also want on your site. And with that, it would also be sharing a hosting. So you wouldn't have to get your own hosting. We would split the cost of a hosting. So that would save on yearly costs moving forward as well. And then it would still, everyone would have their own URL, 2 separate sites, but just under the same hosting section, I guess. And then we're also, yeah, definitely willing to help share data. I do upload events frequently, almost daily, to our website. So it's an easy add-on to the Dunn County website. If that is the route that you guys do want to go, they can get added to both of our sites simultaneously. And we do already do a bunch of events throughout Dunn County as well, not just Menominee. There just would be some splitting of certain costs and an MOU just created if that option is picked.
Before I, well, I can open this up for questions. I have a couple, but I want to open it and not just the committee here, but online as well. And if anybody else, Dunn County EDC has a question, I certainly will invite anybody too. So questions from any committee members? I'm going to throw in, when I read your report, Dan, I was very impressed because those 3 options were really 3 good options. They were, and you recommended option 2. And as I read that, I kept thinking too, well, that would be the option I looked at, and Ann is nodding her head. Now, we don't have everybody here from the committee right now, and I don't know how long you want to study this, but I'm very impressed, and especially when you're working together with the chamber, and you know, we can work with we can work with Dunn County Economic Development, we can work with Extension, everybody here when we do all these things. And I really appreciate the chamber attitude on the way you're willing to do this. It wasn't always that way, but it is. Thank you. Pass that on to Ashley, if you will. Questions from anybody?
I'm kind of at a disadvantage here because I don't
time here yet.
have a copy of the report in front of me, so I don't really know kind of what we're talking about with options 1, 2, and 3. So I won't really be able to do a good job of evaluating it on the fly here in the next couple of minutes because I don't see it. So.
Well, Jim, I understand that. I think I read it for the first time, maybe how long ago we had that, Dan?
Whenever she sent out the packet, it was right on the end of the packet.
Right on the end of the packet.
Pages.
So if you haven't everybody read that, I think go back and read it again. I read it again this morning before I had to go to the flag meeting just to refresh on that. Jim Zons, you're still on. What do you recommend we do here?
Well, I guess I have to look at it. For some reason, I missed seeing that it was attached to the email. I thought it was just an agenda and didn't realize there was a report attached to it. So,
well, maybe Tom Quinn and Larry Bjork that aren't here too at the meeting. Would it be fair, Jim, before you have to leave us in a few minutes, to say, please go back and read that report, or could it be mailed out separate, or if you give me a copy, Dan, I could make sure everybody gets, because I think that's what we need to take action on, maybe by our next meeting. And so everybody needs to be well aware of these 3 options. And would that be too late? I know we're getting into July now, but we want to do it right.
right.
All right with you, Jim?
That's fine with me.
Any objections? Okay, well, if it's all right with everybody, what I will do then, we got the report. We heard from our chamber, our tourism director. We heard from our chief information officer, Dan, and Jim, your report. And if there's any more need for you 3 to meet, or even let me know, it will be on the July agenda. And at that time, it would be my hope that we could take action of how we would recommend that this money that we're allocated this year be spent this year, and be looking forward to the options so that we can continue this program in the future, working with Jim. And let me just say in closing, Jim, if you're still on, maybe, I don't know this, there might be community action, or they don't call them chamber of commerces other than Menominee, but the thought just popped in my head. Are there civic clubs in Colfax and Boyceville and Elk Mound that would like to somehow or another, make sure their community is involved. I just throw that out. We don't need to talk about it right now, but mainly we need a Dunn County. And I have to throw one thing more out. There's a place called West Wind Park right now. It's the old Deepwood ski area. Bob is familiar with it. I've been out there a couple of times. Here's just a place that people have forgotten about out there between Wheeler and Colfax. And they're doing an awesome job. Awesome job. And it needs to be put on the map in Dunn County. I mean, it's just one place I'm thinking of right now. And we can all come up with places like this right now that needs to be put on. I was talking to our ag extension agent, Katie, and she reminded me, we can't forget the barn quilt trails. That needs to be kept in there all the time too. The good things to do in Dunn County, and we haven't done anything on that lately. So I'm excited about it. So next month, I hope we'll all come prepared to take action and make a recommendation on maybe one of those three options that you brought up with us, Dan.
Yeah, I see the report now. It was after there were so many extension pages in there. I guess I didn't realize that there was another report tacked on the very end. So
That's all right. Let's remind Tom, Quinn, and Larry to make sure they go back and read that too, so that everybody is well informed at our July meeting. Dan, thank you.
And then Dan, I'll have some questions because some of the things addressed in report number 2, I don't know how, with sharing that data back and forth, how that's going to affect SEO and where those pages are actually going to reside, if they're going to be like sub pages within the Menominee, Explore Menominee site, or they would be under the Dunn County site, because if it's affecting the SEO, that's another consideration that needs to be entered into things. So
Yeah, and anybody on the committee that's reviewing it, anytime reach out to me. I'd be happy to meet with you and provide any additional details.
Thank you both. Thank you, Bert. And Jim, thank you. I know you have to leave us, Jim. We're going to continue on now with that and dropping it. And Catherine, did you have a comment you wanted to bring in right now before I go to Dunn County Economic Development?
Yeah, thanks so much. I just wanted to just share a little bit about our internship program. And I also wanted to just share one other thing, just piggyback off of what Margaret shared and just illustrate a really nice connection. I know Margaret shared a lot of information, and one piece I just want to make sure it doesn't slip by you, because this is a feather in all of our caps, including you all, is Strong Bodies has traditionally been an in-person wellness program. We're mostly working with seniors on, kind of like Silver Sneakers, but working on, weightlifting, balance, being healthy. And that has been in person around the state. Well, when COVID hit, they quickly figured out how to move that virtually statewide. And guess who was the leader on that? That would be your Area 6 FoodWise educators. So Sandy Tarter took a huge leadership role in that, as well as all of our nutrition educators that work with her, Pamela, Joy, and Nancy. And not only did they teach this class, they also then added on another teaching piece from somewhere in extension. So now, instead of just having this in-person class that might be 5 to 12 people in a county, there could be literally hundreds of people on the statewide program. And then Sandy had invited Margaret to come and share. So Margaret really shared statewide with this innovative piece. And one of the most heartwarming things that I learned from the Strong Bodies work is that when everybody was on the Zoom screen, they would encourage them to put their county name first. So I live in Eau Claire County. I would put Eau Claire Catherine. Jim Anderson would put Dunn Jim. And people would start saying, oh, hey, so-and-so, I know you from class. And so all of these, connections and that had been lost for a while were actually rekindled through Strong Bodies, and people just really loved it. So I just wanted to illustrate just that strong interdisciplinary work and teamwork that Margaret and Sandy have really helped to lead. So lots of kudos there. So we have a really exciting opportunity this summer to work with 3 interns, and they have names. Carly, Levi, and Liz. And they are going to be working with really an interdisciplinary team. So Sandy with FoodWise, Margaret with horticulture, Stephanie with human development and relationships, and then Louisa and Rachel, both in 4-H. And so they started last week, and we just had them dive at the end of the swimming pool and go right into 4-H camp. And so Monday through Thursday last week, they helped out at the Dunn County and Eau Claire County shared day camp that was held. And you know how hot it was last week. And they were outside for most of that time and really were troopers. So this week we're kind of slowing it down a little bit, going back to the shallow end of the swimming pool and just working through some orientation pieces. So one thing I wanted to do is just make this opportunity available for our interns, because part of their goal is to have a lot of exposure to different things in rural settings, government settings. And the internship is really sponsored by public health large group. And then that public health center in Wisconsin is called Wisconsin AHEC. And this is called the, oh, help me out, Carly, the Community Health.
Community Health Internship Program. Yeah.
Yep. So they're really interested in doing public health type of work. And of course, with the pandemic, it was really hard for a lot of public health departments to host additional people. And so that's how Extension got involved, and we couldn't be happier. So great team. And I just wanted Carly to introduce herself briefly, of a little bit about where she's from, what she's studying at school, and why she chose to do an internship and what she's hoping to get out of it. So Carly, take it away.
Welcome, Carly, and we hope that one of these meetings you can actually visit us in person. So, welcome, Carly.
Yeah. I'm Carly. I'm originally from Plymouth, Minnesota, but now I attend UW Eau Claire, and I'm a double major in public health and sociology. Let's see, what were the other questions? I wanted to do an internship to get, I graduate in December, and so I wanted to get as much experience before I graduate as possible, and experience with people in a new setting. So yeah, I'm at the Eau Claire County office. So
Thank you. Today we met together as a team with the staff, and we asked, a series of questions, but one of them was, in this 8-week time, what is something that you really want to accomplish, something that you'd find very meaningful? And Levi, who's actually based in Dunn County and is in the Dunn County building, he said that he really wants to help work on his communication skills and grow that skill set. And poor guy, we were blasting off opportunities left and right. And one is to lead writing an article in the Dunn County Times. We've got an ongoing article helping, I think it's extending a helping hand. And so you might see this internship team be in the local Dunn paper. And Stephanie shared about just sometimes interns will do a report in a community-wide newsletter on the impact, and that happens to be very uplifting and inspiring. So you'll likely see that too. So we're so glad that they're here. If you hear of any opportunities where you think, I'd love to invite an intern to kind of do a buddy system with me, just for them to have exposure, we sure would love that. We have a pretty busy schedule so far, but really the name of the game right now is exposure. So please reach out to myself. You can even reach out to Michelle, and she can get you in touch with me if you have any opportunities that are coming up. With that, that's all I have to report, and would certainly welcome any questions or feedback that you have before I say goodbye to you all.
Catherine, thank you. And I will remind Carly, yes, you're at UW Eau Claire. We have a great university here in Dunn County too, UW Stout. Really welcome. Nice to hear from you. Best wishes. Anybody have a question? Catherine, Margaret, Carly on the committee?
Supervisor Anderson?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to let you know, Levi, it's fine to razz Carly. You can razz Liz too. But Levi, he goes to Stout, and he's actually a baseball player there. So you don't have to razz him.
Thank you. Well, continue those great written reports as well that you've been sending all of us. And again, thank you, Margaret, for your great report, Catherine, and we'll be hearing from you and another educator next month then. Best wishes, Carly. Okay, we'll move on. Thank you again. At this particular point, who is Patience, I'm going to call on our Dunn County Economic Development Executive Director for a little report of what's been going on, and then ask him to stay a little bit for, if you can, for a few other things we have regarding broadband. So I introduced you at this time, Bob Bassani. He did meet with the executive committee last week on Tuesday, so maybe it'll be old hat here to Chairman Bartlett and me, but go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard this before, some of it, maybe not all of it, but I will tell you that we've been, and you know, when I came on at the beginning of the year, I don't have to tell you guys that we were coming essentially, and we weren't even out of a COVID year yet, and economic development died in 2020 as a result of the COVID problems. So a lot of the initiatives have died, and it took a while for them to redevelop it. But I also came on with an objective for Dunn County Economic Development Corporation. Aside from our closing our offices in City Hall, and I'm working on the lower level of my house, that's where our office is now. And we don't have an administrative assistant, so I'm doing all the accounting and administrative work on top of that. But aside from all of that, my primary objectives were to do those things that I had felt were important to Dunn County Economic Development and the economy of the county when I was with Dunn County Economic Development all those years ago. And so that's what my focus has been. And my focus essentially has been on those things that create brick and mortar and jobs. And most recently here, broadband expansion. But so I've got a lot of that. I will tell you that because I've absorbed all these other things, and I'll tell you guys straight up, because I will work with projects a lot more in a lot different ways than most people will. There's a lot of things that I am not involved in that maybe historically and traditionally the DC EDC was, but I just simply have not been involved in some of those initiatives because they don't. Number one, I don't bring anything to the party anyway. I don't bring a hell of a lot to the table on some of them. And number two, I don't have the time. But anyway, I'll just take you through a list here real quick, okay? And it grows all the time. But I also went out and decided that there were projects that were going to come to me, but I also went out and sourced projects. And I know these are long shots, guys, but they're no shots at all unless I put them on the table and do the work. So among other things, the Boyceville Hardware Store done a lot of work for that's a guy who has a hardware store in Cornell, wants to expand into Boyceville. Have been working with him and to some degree with the Village of Boyceville because there's certain things we had to do. But I've done a lot of work for this guy. I've put all his total pro formas together, his pro forma financial projections, and putting his financing package together for him. We've run into a snag with this project, as we have with quite a few others at the moment, and that is that the construction costs have gone right through the roof. And in the capital plan that I put together for him, the construction costs I was counting on early are no longer apply. You know, as an example, I was looking at working with him to get a pre-engineered steel facility constructed. Right now, pre-engineered steel is bumping right against precast concrete in terms of cost. And on top of that, I had one contractor tell me last week, Bob, if you want precast steel, he said, or pre-engineered steel, he said, tell me what time next year you want it. He says, because it's so we've put this down the road. It's going to happen, but I've slowed it down. I'm still working on his business prospectus, and we'll get his financing package set up. But we've got to wait until the market stabilizes. So it's going to happen. Menominee Golf Course, and this was Tanglewood, guys. And there was somebody within the city who, in fact, wanted to. Him and his partners wanted to buy the course and reopened as an 18-hole golf course. It's been closed for the last year. It needs to be refurbished, etc. Did a ton of work. I mean, a ton of work with these guys. to get this. I really wanted this to happen. And so I put the total set of pro formas together. I worked with their commercial, with the commercial lanes for them, all that stuff. I haven't done anything now for 2 weeks. I don't know if it's on the market anymore. The owner has waffled a lot on where that's at. I don't know where that's at, guys, but we'll just have to write it out. But did a ton of work for that. A server farm was approached here, and this got to be about a month and a half ago by a firm that was looking to put in a large server farm. I knew right away, even though they didn't say in there it was a server farm, I knew it because they had a requirement of 35 megawatts of power. That's a ton of power, big time ton. And there ain't anybody sitting around with that kind of power available for somebody to build. That's because it's going to require its own substation, pure and simple. But in any case, worked with XL Energy, worked with City of Menominee. That package was put out together for these guys, and it's under consideration. I don't know if it'll happen. I think Menominee is in a good position if they pull the trigger, it'd be a 100,000 square foot building, 100 really high paying jobs. So we'll see what that happens. But what happened in Menominee? There's a NAP manufacturing project. Talked with this guy. I believe that's probably in process right now. I've got to check with him, but that was a manufacturing company to be built in Nap to manufacture CBD oil. Okay. There was another Menominee business expansion. Some business in the Menominee Industrial Park called me. They wanted to double in size in business, and so I was working with them. And I would work with them. I worked with contractors. I worked with the developers. Worked with the owners, etc. And I was waiting for them to provide me information. I've been waiting for over a month. If they can give me the information, I'll continue to work with them. But I can't go any further with these guys until they give me what I need. There's a large scale construction project. This is not going to happen this year. This is longer term. But I've talked to the guy about this. If in fact what he tells me is true, this would be one huge giant project, big time big, and as substantial as the guy is who is doing this, he's not substantial enough to do this, and he knows it. He's asked me to open up some of my channels, so I've opened up some funding channels that we could explore if in fact we can get to the next step. So I'm sitting on that. Community center. Have done a lot of work with this group, and this would be. I'll tell you straight up, it's Thunderbird Mall. They want to secure it or acquire it and turn it also into a sports center. Have done a lot of work with these guys to get this done. The last time I met with them was the week before last. Again, I've done their full set of pro forma financials. They were too tight, and I told them, I says, the guys, we could probably make this work, but I says it's too tight. Okay, we've got to do so. So I asked him to do some things for me. Okay, I says, come back, get this stuff done, come back to me, and we'll take it to the next step. A food wagon. I worked with these guys. They wanted a Mexican flair food wagon. I actually wanted to do it because I would like to and they were going to be in Menominee and Colfax and Boyceville. Okay, I done a lot of work with these guys. Found them a kitchen. Began to look at what tapping into the micro loan program. They could have been a good fit for that. Really, but then they pulled their horns in. So it's just sitting out there. I don't know where it's going to go. I'm exploring a couple of options and this is embryonic, guys, truly embryonic. But again, it's one of those things that won't happen unless we explore it. There may be some opportunity to work with some producers in Dunn County to explore a cooperative, a for-profit cooperative. And there's some things that's happened here recently that might fit well into that. So that's just out there and working on that. A medical device company. This has been out there. This would be a huge deal. Big time deal if we can get it to happen. I've done a lot of work with these guys. My only payment is that I told them I would do the work for them if in fact they would put Dunn County on the table. So Dunn County's on the table. They can take, and I've talked to the investors, the principals, et cetera. And again, as late as last week, they told me, they said, Bob, it's not a matter of if we're going to fund it, it's just a matter of how and when. So we'll see. But anyway, I've got Dunn County on the table, in that. There's another manufacturing company expansion. I got a call here, gosh, a week before last. These guys are supposed to be calling me. So I'm going to wait through this week to see if I get that call. But it's an existing manufacturing company. They make stuff for the construction industry. And they're up in northern Wisconsin now. They have a geographic reason to be in this area. So they want to expand. And it'd be a 10,000 square foot facility, probably 20, 25 jobs. So, but working in rural Dunn County would probably work really good for them, actually better for them in terms of their upfront costs. So that's out there. I'm waiting for that. Working with somebody in Dunn County here on a hydroponic farm. This would be vertical farming. And Margaret would probably know better than I do what this is all about. Okay. But nonetheless, I'm working with these guys to do that. They bring some stuff to the table. I get a lot of requests for projects, guys, that I just don't take to the next step because I know they're probably, even though I try to not diminish anybody who comes to me. If they come to me with a plan, they come to me with a dream or a thought, but they don't come to me with reality. I'll sit down, I'll talk to them, and I'll say, okay, listen, this is what you got to do for me. Okay, get this done, then come back to me. A lot of times they never come back, because they can't do it. That's all right. But this hydroponic farm, this guy brings some strength to the table. Okay, and it's a modular system, and so I'm working with him to see what we can do to put something like that together. He's going to need some help, but we'll get it done. Okay, but that's a neat deal on it. I got a call. I'm working now with a guy on an e-commerce. So he opened an e-commerce business several years ago, and now he needs to expand. We're looking at a spot in rural Dunn County. It would work for him geographically if we could find something in Elk Mound. So I'm looking for some space in Elk Mound right now to see if we can't do something with this guy. Plus, additionally, we can work with this guy to help him expand this e-commerce business. Done a lot of e-commerce business, big time, with Amazon, own commercial sites, Etsy, eBay. So we're looking to work with this guy to expand. And then additionally here, and most recently, and I won't take a lot of time on this, but we have been meeting with NextGen out of Clear Lake. They've got a small footprint in western Dunn County, Mosaic, on the northern half of Dunn County, and 24/7 Telecom. Because of the ARPA funds that have been allocated to the county, and additionally also to the townships. And by the way, and I want to we'll talk about that tomorrow. I've talked to some of the townships, Jim. But the Wisconsin Public Service Commission had some allocation of the ARPA funds, and they have now come out with a grant program with an application request for these grants to expand broadband into rural Dunn County. And all three of these companies want to apply for those particular grants. I will say straight up that there is a list of 10 criteria that are identified, and I've been able to go and source what those are that the PSC is looking for in terms of its grant requirements. The number one item on there is public participation, i.e. county participation, township participation. Anyway, so we've been doing a lot of work with these guys, meeting with these guys. They'll be approaching and have been meeting with townships because they want to see if they can't get their allocation of these funds. We would very much like to, and then as of late as last week, was it last week, with the executive board had indicated to them that we would highly recommend that they take a look at supporting this broadband expansion in rural Dunn County. These grants don't come along every day. Both Mosaic and 24/7 Telecom have put together some really good plans to substantially expand broadband service in Dunn County with the use of this grant. They're willing to stick some of their funds in there. What we're hoping is that we can get some public participation. So we're working hard to see if we can't get that done.
Yes, thank you, Bob. That kind of leads us right into a little bit of the next discussion. I did put on the agenda after talking to Bob and I think Gary Steen, both went along with Chairman Bartlett. I've met with Mosaic, right? And oh, you didn't, Dave.
No, Dave,
But
Gary did.
oh,
Gary-
Gary didn't.
Gary
Okay, you two did. And I met with Bob with Telcom 24/7 as recently as a week ago, maybe a week ago today. And the purpose of our meeting with these providers is the major three providers are who Bob said. Mosaic, that's the northern part of Dunn County. They want to expand south. They want to expand into not that top tier. They want to expand. They're good neighbors with Telcom 24/7. And as you know, we started way back when we talked about the donut. Remember that word around Menominee? That was those townships surrounding the city of Menominee that aren't being served. City of Menominee, as you well know, has pretty good broad speed right now, internet speed. So here's what I want you all to know from talking to Jim Kuslik, who is head up for Telcom, as recently again as Saturday, that they're meeting with every township and every township to try to find out if they are willing to take some of the ARPA money, there I got it, that the townships get to put toward broadband. And Jim said they're meeting with 2 more of those townships tonight, and that he'll have another report. Most of the townships are looking fairly favorable at putting some of that money they get toward ARPA. You know that this committee would be the committee, if we decide to do it, to make a recommendation to executive board that maybe some of the ARPA money of the 8.8 million that we'll be getting, remember 4.4 million will be gotten yet this year, another 4.4 million we will get next year, and it all must be spent by the end of 2024. Now we're waiting for the protocol of exactly how this money can be spent. So we can't make a decision until we know that. You all got notice, as I did, that tomorrow afternoon at 3 to 4, there's a Zoom meeting that will explain and update us all pretty well on the protocol of how some of this some of this money can be spent. I'm going to try to attend that meeting. Our county manager is trying to get on board of that. I know our board chair is trying to stay on and getting on top of that, working with Paul. And so we have to wait until we get that protocol. But, you know, the problem is once we get the protocol, then this committee, if we're going to do anything, is the committee that's going to make a recommendation. So we need to be prepared. And if Jim is not on board anymore, and Larry probably isn't hearing this, and Tom Quinn, so we have 3 members that I'm going to have to ask them at least, because our next meeting in July will be just a few days before our executive meeting. This last time, our executive meeting met before this meeting. So I wasn't able to really bring any information from there to the executive board last meeting. And I asked their chairman if he could let me report 2 months meeting at one time next time. So anyway, tonight we aren't ready to take any action on that, I don't think, except to let you think about it and be aware of the protocol. And if you feel strongly, I know you know I do, but you're the committee. If you feel strongly that we need to make recommendation toward either matching townships, to me that would be a great public relation thing to do. If they say they're going to take some money, put it toward broadband within their township, and then Jim Kuslich tells me that town of Lucas, for example, they weren't going to go north of 94. Now they'll go north and they'll do the whole township. And so they're looking at all townships within all of Dunn County to really try to have broadband speed up there that we need. And we don't have it right now. There's no doubt about it. We don't have it right now. There, you heard it from
Jim,
me
can I add
again.
something to that?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, can
Bob.
I add something to that?
What's
Okay.
that?
And just so everybody is aware, and I think this is probably intuitively understood, but I will, this goes back from some experience here. Just over a year ago, I got contacted by a group in Southeast, and this is a private company that wanted to install fiber optic cable And this is not a public company, but a private company. And this was for the defense department. It was for other, but it was dedicated to private companies. So I put those pro formas together for probably half a dozen of those. I can tell you, I know what it costs to bury fiber optic cable. Mosaic and 24/7 Telecom and NextGen are talking fiber optic cable here. They're not talking about satellite link.
Nope.
They're
it's
not
fiber.
talking about tower service. Okay, they are talking about the Cadillac of broadband service, pure and simple. But the only way that's ever going to happen in rural Dunn County or any other rural areas with grants, period, amen. Because I'll guarantee you, it'd be economic suicide for them to lay fiber optic cable to pick up 4 customers a mile.
Yep.
Not going to happen. But they're all willing and in fact anxious to provide that broadband service if in fact they can get these grant programs. So.
Thank you, Bob. We obviously are not ready to take action right now. We've talked about it, maybe quite a few meetings. So I will, unless our Chairman Bartlett has any comments, I would certainly welcome you at this time, Chairman, of any comments you care to make. I just.
Well, we could make a recommendation to if we find out that the ARPA funds can only be used for broadband, or if whatever committee we decide is going to decide how to spend the ARPA funds, which would probably be the executive committee, I would think.
Right.
But we could make that recommendation that we would like to see the ARPA funds used for broadband if that so comes, if it turns out that that's all we can use it for. Then we would be ready for at least it wouldn't have to go through this committee.
Again,
It would be at least one less month that we have to wait, because the proposal that Mosaic gave us, when was it, last Thursday or last Tuesday, whatever it was, they didn't give us much time.
No.
They need an answer by July 27th. I
Correct.
believe it is.
Well, actually, if I might add, you're right, Dave. What they told me was they needed an answer much earlier than that because they
Right.
need time to put that together.
Right, they need an answer by the 1st of July
That's
to
correct.
put it together,
Exactly
because the
right.
grant has to be in by July 27th.
exactly
That's right.
And that's what both,
And
that's
that-
what 24/7 said. too.
Yeah, and that just, governments don't move that fast.
Right.
So I would suggest that we, that we make a motion tonight. There's no reason why you can't. It's on the agenda.
Right.
You have a quorum here. There's
Right.
3 of us. And we could make that motion, and, pass that tonight, and it would be one less hurdle if in fact that's the way it goes. We don't know how it's gonna go until we
Correct.
decide how we can spend it. The experts tell us not to be in a hurry to spend it, to wait and make sure that we use it wisely, because it's one-time funds. But first we want to make sure that all the chances of spending it on other things are the wide area to spend it is narrowed down to what they've been talking about right along, which is recovering from COVID dollar revenue, broadband, and sewer and water infrastructure. So I think we could. I would
Thank you.
suggest we move on tonight with it.
I appreciate that. I really had that in plan too, and then we were missing 3 committee members. That was always bothering me. Supervisor Vogel.
Does the motion have to have a specific amount?
No, I would say that we could just make a motion that, you know, that our recommendation is that we use it for broadband, if that's what we determine that. Yeah. Well, we're pretty sure we'll be able to use it for broadband because they've been saying that right along, but there's, yeah, you know, we've identified $15 million worth of capital investments needs. We've got capital investment needs at the highway department, but it doesn't look like we're gonna be able to use it for that stuff, but we don't know that until the final stuff comes out.
Do we have to motion recommend?
I'm
that-
sorry to interrupt, but can you speak into the microphone?
Sorry.
That's okay, thank you.
Do we need to make the motion to, like for matching funds? Or make it, doesn't have to be specific?
No, I think we can be pretty broad on that just the recommendation of using it for broadband, using ARPA funds for broadband if the executive, it's gonna go to county board in the end.
Correct.
So it's just to get the ball rolling, and this would eliminate.
It has to start
could-
here.
Could eliminate a whole month's worth of time.
Right.
Depending on how the time comes about. Then, you know, if the timing's right, the time between the executive and county board is a lot less, so it could eliminate a lot of time.
Thank you, Chairman Bartlett. I was hoping we could do that tonight, and I didn't know if we had enough people that can vote anymore, that there's 3 of us here. I don't think there's any other county committee online anymore, is there? Okay, Supervisor Vogel, did I hear a motion? To
Yes, a motion to recommend.
to recommend
That the
COVID, that ARPA funds be used for broadband in Dunn County. Would that suffice? I need a second,
I'll second. that.
and we got a second from Chairman Bartlett. All right, any discussion? Is the motion clear, Michelle? Thank you. Then I think we're ready to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nay, the motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Bartlett. I appreciate that. We now can say that this committee is recommending that ARPA funds be used to help in some way, after we get the protocol, to help expand broadband in Dunn County. I appreciate that, folks. Thank you very much. My agenda now then says, unless there's anything that anybody has that I missed, I bring it up for other announcements that anybody has. Announcements? Michelle, any announcements or anything yet on Dunn County Fair or anything from Extension, or is there anything we need to be updated on?
Nope, I don't have
Okay.
anything.
Thank you again for recording. We appreciate that very much. Well, I really appreciate our good reports that we had tonight on rural tourism. With that, folks, and Bob, thank you. And our next meeting, I remind everybody, July 12th. I'll also remind everybody to go back and read the end of the last month's report, where we have all those good options and everything that they put together. And if there's no further items for discussion, I will declare again the meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody. And thank you to Krista for all the work you do. You can close it.